Welcome to Kevs Travel Stories. Each week I'll be bringing you a story from the weird and wonderful world of travel, a world that can change the way you see life and love and even the way we find meaning. Places that are iconic and sometimes surprising and even terrifying. So sit back and enjoy while we go on a magical mystery tour together. Have you ever met God? Have you ever met a living God? Have you ever met a God in the shape and presence of a 6-year-old girl? Well, if you go to Kathmandu and you go to the inner sanctum of one of the great temples there, you will meet God, a living God. This is according to the tradition and to the great history of one of the oldest sects in the world. I am talking about the Kumari. This manifestation of the divine female energy, the Shakti. And I actually met God. Now, I have recorded a separate podcast on Kathmandu, which you can listen to, and it will give you a real insight into Kathmandu. But once you're in Kathmandu, and if you're lucky enough to time your journey and your visit correctly, you can go to the temple, and there you will meet the Kumari. Now, I didn't know much about this until Diamond, who is, of course, the font of all wisdom when it comes to travel. And as a travel writer, I obviously had to meet the living God. So we arrived. It was a midday on a Saturday. The temple was buzzing. It was actually very, very well attended. But there's a separate place right in the middle, the goddess's personal abode. It's made of dark stone. You enter through a very narrow gateway, and there are some people there warning you not to take photos, to just be patient, because the goddess, she, the Kumari, or the Kumari, as they pronounce, there's two ways of pronouncing it, the Kumari can be seen, but she will never speak to you. She remains silent. Let me tell you a little bit about the history of the Kumari. It's very ancient. From a certain tribe in Nepal, the Kumari is chosen. It's a bit like the Dalai Lama, but of a female manifestation. She has to be someone who is just about able to walk, so we're looking at starting at 3 or 4 years of age. And then her feet will never touch the ground once she becomes a Kumari. She will have around about a 10-year reign, and the moment menstruation starts, she is divested of her divine power and returned to the community. It seems a bit odd, as most of the religious manifestations around the world, whether it's Christianity, the Marian tradition, the Buddhist tradition, there are extraordinary stories. But it was very interesting to see this living God, because when I have enjoyed meeting and exploring and tasting religions from around the world, particularly in Asia, they're usually all set by and inspired by figures who are dead. The Buddha, the great gods of the Hindu world, they're mythical or they are in the past, like Siddhartha, who died many centuries ago, the enlightened Buddha. But the Kumari is alive and her tradition continues. And every time the one manifestation of the Kumari reaches womanhood, a new one is brought in, given tests to show that she has the right spirit, literally, to become a representation of the divine female energy, the Shakti, as I said. And then people come, people pay obeisance, people pray, and of course people ask favors. And just to be in her presence is regarded as a great and extraordinarily divine blessing. I am from a Christian tradition. Now I've been exposed to so many different religions around the world that I think I'm quite Catholic in the small c, meaning I have a universal understanding to a certain degree of different religions. But this, I wasn't prepared for it. I never come across a living divine being. And when we say divine, the people in Kathmandu and the people who follow and worship the Kumari are completely of the opinion that this is the manifestation of the divine. So all I can say is I respectfully stood there. There were a lot of people gathering. Actually, it wasn't that many people, maybe 30 or 40, because she makes this appearance at noontime of a Saturday in her own special divine abode. And there's a window up. It's a sort of 3-story ancient temple building. And there's a little window up above and blesses just by being there. So we waited. I can remember I talked to 2 women from Bangladesh who had come. They were more interested. I don't think they were devotees. Then a few devotees turned up and they were ready to be really blessed by the occasion. I think some of the Westerners that had wandered in, because it's very informal, there's nobody, the only thing they don't want you to do is to take a photo. So we stood and we waited. And the noonday heat of Kathmandu was on us like a blanket. And in the distance beyond the confines of the temple, you could hear the buzzing of the scooters and the honking of the cars and a plane going overhead and the general chatter of this great and powerfully energetic city of Kathmandu. And then the crowd hushed and fell silent, and there was a movement up. And we looked up. And I waited, and I could feel my pulse slightly rising. I could feel a prickle on my neck of anticipation. The blood was pumping a little quicker. Would she appear? Sometimes she doesn't appear. And then, there she was. Now she would be no older than my granddaughter, Maya, 7 or 8 years old. She's done up with this beautiful makeup, a special sort of makeup. The eyes are exaggerated, so are the lips. There are certain markings to do with this ancient tradition. She's dressed in this very, very ornate, almost a bodysuit of rich fabrics, adorned with semi-precious stones, from what I could gather. And she's carried. Her feet are not to touch the ground while she is the Kumari. And she looked down on us. And a hush fell on the audience, and we looked up at her, and a hush fell on her. And there was this strange moment. 1 blink, 2 blink. It was as if we were all waiting for something. Now, in a blink of an eye, she was gone. And we waited, and we turned, and the conversation erupted again. This time, what did you see? What did you feel? What did you think? And I have to say, in all honesty, I found it rather strange, because it's not part of the fabric of my understanding of my religious upbringing, culture. There was a sort of a vacuum as regards my being able to really channel with her. That's just no different to me and the cuisine and not being able to drink buttered tea. It's to do with my culture. And I think it really just shakes this Western preoccupation that I have, and this Western conditioning that it all has to be my way, a certain way, a Western way. And I so love these little shocks, such as going to the crematorium down by the river at the great Hindu temple, and here meeting this divine female energy, the Shakti of the Kumari. And it just makes you stop, and it makes you think, and it makes you bristle with life at the wonder and the beauty and the madness and the difference of how we all are and how we try to understand our place in this world. Because there is an energy, there is a female energy, there's a male energy, there's a divine energy, I feel, from visiting the Buddha and visiting these temples and going down to the cremations of our remains and seeing that, and now seeing live in front of me a living goddess. Where else would you get it but in Kathmandu? So if you do get a chance, go, catch a plane, fly over, support the people of Nepal and Kathmandu who do need support after those terrible earthquakes. And check out my other podcast on Kathmandu to get a real flavour of it. But then make sure that you go to the temple where the Kumari comes. And I laid eyes on her, and I have seen their manifestation of the divine female energy, and I have witnessed the Shakti, and I am so glad that I've been able to relate this tale, because it's broadened my understanding and my empathy for different peoples, different understandings, different religions, different interpretations. So thank you, Kumari, and bless you. And may you live a long and healthy life until the next manifestation comes along.